Okay. I don't know why this is so complicated today, but hopefully Andrew Hines will come in. I did message him. I was having some technical difficulties for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay. So while we wait for Andrew to come in, I'll just tell you a little. We're going to be learning about Andrew Hines's personal development journey. So sorry about it. I don't know why
And
I was feeling hardcore.
no problem.
How
Yeah,
have
don't
you
mind.
been?
Good. Don't mind the backdrop. I actually am just on the road today, so I just found a good spot to stop.
No worries, no worries. It's always, as long as we can have some time to chat, that's always good, right?
Hmm.
So thank you so much for doing this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to just understand what your journey's been like and how you've learned, how you've seen your personal development growth, throughout the time from beginning to end. So to give the viewers a little bit, first of all, to know where you're at right now, let's start with where you're at right now in your real estate journey and entrepreneurship.
Sure. Okay, so I started real estate investing in 2011, and I got into kind of some really unfortunate, not great rentals at first because I didn't know what I was doing, and I got into some development that didn't turn out. I bought some properties in the United States, lost money there. I had a whole bunch of hard knocks to start off, but I persevered through that, and then I really started to hit my stride in 2015. I started buying up student rentals in London, Ontario, and adding a lot of value with the BRRRR method, where you buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and then repeat using the money that you pull out. And I started a company for construction, started a company to flip properties, and I've grown my portfolio, primarily student rentals, some family rentals, about a $4.1 million asset value at the moment in London, Ontario. And most of that not done with my own money, most of that done by creatively leveraging and using the bank's money, using private investors' money. So that's real estate. And then entrepreneurship, I have my construction company. So I do some general contracting for a developer, and I do some of the work for my own projects in terms of contracting. That's really the main reason I wanted to have that flexibility to, have a properly registered company with WSIB with proper insurance that can do my projects.
That's awesome. That's great. It sounds like you've really grown a lot in these few years.
Hmm.
So to start with that, so then before you started this journey, um, what would you say were the skills that you had that you think helped you to even get started on this journey?
Okay, so I grew up with, like, my mom had a business when I was younger. She's always been an entrepreneur. So I used to work in her business and help. She had a pottery business and interior decorating. So I would help with wood cutouts and things like that, plaster molds and casting ceramics. So I got a taste of what it was like to have that kind of a business when I was young. And I don't think my mom was ever that profitable at it, but just kind of the spirit of it all, made me want to go down that road. Sorry, could you just repeat your question, just because I don't want to go on a tangent here. I want to make sure I'm
Oh,
answering
no,
the
no.
question asked.
So basically, so you kind of already had a bit of that entrepreneurial
Yeah,
mindset kind of setting in, I guess, when you
yeah.
were younger, was kind of already there. So then, and then in personal, as you yourself as a person, like, were there any skills that you felt that you had that helped you go forward? And slash, for
Yeah.
example, just being an introvert to extrovert, like what, as you as a whole, do you feel like really pushed you forward in getting involved in this?
Well, I'm a pretty open-minded person. I question things a lot, and I don't know why I started questioning things so much. When I was younger, I heard my parents kind of disagreeing about money and such, and because I heard that, I'm like, well, I don't want to live like that. Like, I want to live abundantly. I want to always have enough. And I started asking a question, what would I need to do differently to be more abundant? So I really started questioning, like, how would I live versus how my parents, kind of just structured their lives. And I think that led me to go to business school, which created some, technical skills. And, I studied economics, studied business. So in terms of skills, that certainly helped. I got into the mortgage business to learn about, private lending and real estate investing. And that because that's another tool to add into the toolkit. But I had to acknowledge, probably somewhere around 2010 that I kind of had a bad attitude. I was a little cynical, and I had watched The Secret in like 2006, and I believed in a lot of what it said, and I thought, what, attitude does attract circumstance, and I really tried to focus on being more positive. Now I would say it's more of a balance. Like I'm not unnecessarily negative. Like I try and be very objective about things and not color them negatively. And I really just try and focus on what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, and the best way to do that. How can we do that? So kind of getting that curious question rather than dismissing things and saying, I can't, say, how can I, is a really important tool in the toolkit, I would say.
So then would you say that point in time where you felt like you were having a lot of negativity, was that like your pivotal point, would you say, that made you start really rethinking things?
Um, yeah,
Or what was that
that was a
pivotal
huge
point for
time.
you felt like?
That was a
What do
huge
you feel like
time.
was your pivotal point that kind of just was like, you know what, I want to start to be an entrepreneur?
I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur from even before university, and I just didn't know how. So I figured, well, I'll go to school, learn business, and maybe I'll know how. And then I realized that school doesn't really teach you how to be an entrepreneur. Even at business school, they kind of groom you to be a consultant, an accountant, an iBanker. They don't really groom you to be an entrepreneur. And not that you can't. There definitely are people that come out of the business school I went to that become entrepreneurs, but I didn't feel like it was the focus, and I still don't feel like it's the focus there. So that part was a little bit challenging, but I really had a breakthrough in terms of what I needed to do if I was going to turn myself into the person that could be an entrepreneur and the person that could be successful at it. Was I would need to admit where my shortcomings are, acknowledge that I didn't know everything, and then constantly learn. So I went to a real estate investor seminar, one of those run to the back of the room seminars in like 2010. And Brian Tracy, there was a Brian Tracy book given away at that seminar, and I decided I didn't like the seminar. Like they pitched this expensive course, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. I was still a little cynical at the time, and so then I grabbed that book and I read it. And Brian Tracy had this idea of the university on wheels. Like every time you drive somewhere, you're listening to an audio book. So I just started, and started reading all the time. So I just went to the library, and I don't read fiction. I don't listen to fiction. I don't watch much TV. I'm consuming information about things I don't know, and I'm trying to learn constantly. And that was a big change for me when I realized like I just need to constantly be learning and understanding the value that really smart people bring to my life. And I try and add value to smart people and bring them into my circle. And these are all things I learned through reading really good books written by very smart people that weren't me. I don't I'm not trying to give myself credit in this. I think that the information and the knowledge is out there, and the mindset that you need to be successful is out there. But you actually have to go out and learn what you don't know, because our school systems don't teach it. You have to learn that from those who are successful. So I just really started to put these things together, like the concept that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it's a big reason why I started the meetup group that I have, and I try and get out and go golfing with fellow investors and do things like that, because we will talk about shop, we will talk about ideas, and I love being around people who think big because it's contagious. So I try to acknowledge where it is that I'm weak. If I because I can have bad days, and I'll have days where I don't feel like doing much, and if I actually um, just find a way to set something up and go spend some time with people who inspire me, it kind of gets me out of that, and it helps me stay focused on bigger and better things.
100%. I think that when you're around the right people, it's just so motivational. And I feel like the points that I feel like, so what you were saying, that um, I feel like for you was asking questions was a very important part because it led you to,
Hmm.
learning about things and understanding things, and also just the educational, like how important it is to just always keep on learning, which is very
Yeah,
true. Because I feel like as entrepreneurs, we always need to just keep on learning because things are always changing. So we have to be able to
yeah.
adapt.
Yeah, and the brain's
That's
kind of a muscle, right? Like people, people like to think of IQ as a fixed thing. I don't think it is. I think that the more you use your brain for critical thinking, the stronger it gets, the sharper it gets. And I think a lot of people, like in school, were taught to learn and regurgitate, not to think critically, to ask critical questions. I'm, very the opposite. I really don't like just rehashing what I hear. I like to question pretty much everything, which can kind of be exhausting and kind of be, a rabbit hole in itself. Like sometimes you gotta step back. But like I said, open minded. I try and be reasonable about what I focus on. But I like, for instance, the situation right now. I do dedicate quite a bit of my energy into creating content and talking to people about the current situation that we're going through with this lockdown. Many of the variables that are at play here, and how we can think about this more balanced, because that's just something I find important. I question a lot about the current situation.
Yeah, and it is nice to get other people's points of view because
Hmm.
then it just helps you either validate yours or add
Mm.
more to your point of view or better understanding for yourself. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I feel like I'm the same. Like I love asking questions and like poking at people's minds.
Yeah, well, there's always a way to do something that we don't know, right? There's always somebody out there that did it, right? You want to learn how to do something, go find somebody who did it and ask them how they did it. Like it seems overly simplified, but that really is my finally hitting my stride in real estate investing was basically leveraging on the knowledge of somebody who was a friend of mine in the industry for 5 years at that point. And I just decided, okay, like I was kind of struggling. I'm like, I'm just going to ask him what he would do, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy what he would do. And that's where I started. I started with copying what he would do, and that was the most success I had. And he was extremely successful. And yeah, I had to fill in the blanks, but the general idea I got from talking to him. And, it just goes to show, like, be humble, talk to people who know more than you, try and add value to them, and you can grow and learn what they know. And then you can, pay it forward and help somebody else in the same way.
100%. And so, what about, for example, once you started the journey of being an entrepreneur and getting into real estate, what would you say were some of the skills that you didn't have and that you started realizing you needed to learn to start the business or get
Yeah.
bigger, whichever.
Like there's all kinds of technical skills I needed to learn, right? Like, how am I going to sell this? Who am I going to deal with? Who's going to be the right lender for this? You're constantly having to talk to people and learn. And those type of things, those technical details were all, it's a constant learning process because it's constantly changing too. The same lender that might do something 4 years ago is not going to do the same thing now, or even 4 months ago. So those are things that I'm just constantly learning. But in terms of, skills that I think like would unleash the next level of growth, I think that big things were hiring a site supervisor in my business, like being able to relinquish some of the control, hiring out, basically. So I went from my first project where I was like sleeping on the site, I was there every day, and I was burning out. And I decided, look, I need to let somebody who knows more than me take the reins. So I hired, well, I guess he was a subcontractor technically, but I hired a subcontractor to basically be my full-time site super for a couple of projects. Eventually started a company and made him my employee, and I built a team around him. And building that team allowed me to have like my peace back. It freed up my time. It allowed me to be able to enjoy every day a little bit more. And so that was big. I think the next big thing that's going to be, learn how to release my control over my administrative side. And so it's been on my list for this week, but I've been running around like crazy to get an administrative assistant job posting out, because I want somebody that's just full time in my life, like every single day, being mini me, being the second me here, handling my business so that I can continue to grow. Because I think we all hit a point where we're going to need to kind of uncap our potential, and I feel like I'm there. Of course, there's more I can grow, but I think that allowing myself to trust and hand off some of those things, because I'm a pretty particular person. I like things done a certain way, and I obviously have to find the right fit, but if I can invest that time and just release a little bit of the control, I think that it can be really rewarding and I could really grow more.
Yeah, it's being able to have the bandwidth basically to put your energy into the more important things. And it is true. It is hard to release some control of things. I feel like we all think we're like the experts in what we do, and then it's like finding that person to replace is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes hard and or it's scary, I think, like that, like losing that control and having to like have that confidence in a person to take care of it, right?
Yeah, that is the hardest thing, right? But I don't think there's a way around it. You just got to kind of bite the bullet and do it eventually, and then if it doesn't work, then replace that person, find another one. I think that's how it goes. Like I don't think, getting into the technical details, like I wouldn't be eager to give up passwords or banking, information, but there's so much more that a person who helps me could do, and then I could just save, the transacting of actual money for myself, and I can do the e-transfers and the direct deposits and cash the checks, but everything else can be done by somebody else. So that would be a huge step for me. And then I don't feel like I need to be in the office. I won't feel like I need to be on this because I've got somebody else tackling these things for me. And now I can say, okay, well, what can I do today, to take the next step? Look for more real estate deals, look for properties to flip, buy, do the burr on, grow my portfolio more. I think that it just, again, once you kind of release that control, it does uncap potential growth.
Totally. And then so going back to you're saying that you tried a lot of different things and failed. How how was that for you? Because that must have been very difficult. You know, you have these failures to keep on going. Like, was
Yeah.
it easy for you to keep on going, or did you have like lows where you're like some time had to be taken off and you kind of had to like regroup? Like, how did that
Yeah.
go for you?
Oh, it was brutal. My 20s were just like painful. I mean, of course, I had lots of good experiences, but just so much failure, so many bad experiences. You know, it was hard, and I was almost out of it. If I hadn't had really good people in my life to kind of pick me up a little bit, I probably wouldn't have got back in. But as of 2013, I had basically had two train wrecks in a row. My Ohio properties had basically, my property manager had stolen money, destroyed my properties, and so I was at a significant loss, and I paid for those properties on a line of credit, so I owed money, and the investment was gone. So that was pretty bad. And then I had another would-be joint venture that we got hit with an interim control bylaw, and they prevented the venture from moving forward. So I ended up having to do a little minor reno and keep that property, and it was underwater, so to speak. Well, it was under what we had in it. Lost position for like 4 years, so I had to hang on to that so that my investor could sell and get his money back. And Yeah, so those were pretty bad. And if when that all happened, I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Like I'm tired of taking this risk and failing, and it's painful. And um, but you know what? I saw my friend doing these flips, doing these burrs, and making so much money, and just like laughing and having such a good time doing it. I'm like, what am I missing here? So I just kept following what he was doing and listening and doing research, and I kind of bided my time. And eventually, I hit this point where I was just like, it was do or die. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I just jumped in, and I've never looked back since. Really, my life has been fully real estate ever since that time, and that was pretty much, well, it was 2015 that happened.
Mhm. Oh wow. So it's basically the motivation came back was just seeing your friend and doing it, and then you
Yeah.
also wanted to just get in there, try again.
Yeah, like if you see somebody making like $100,000 flip every like 2 months, and I was like struggling to rub two nickels together. I was not literally. I had a couple of properties, but I wasn't in a good place. Like I hadn't really been happy with what I was doing. I had my mortgage license. I tried a few other entrepreneurial things, and I hadn't really found my stride, and something that I enjoyed a lot doing on a daily basis. But when I got into doing the properties and doing the burrs, and even in the company when we were buying and selling, like just the creative element and stuff, like you add the fact that it's profitable to the fact that it was enjoyable. And, my life enjoyment really improved. I started enjoying, what I was doing on a day to day a lot. And when you enjoy what you do, work becomes play, and then you don't mind working more. And then you make a lot more money because you're working more, but in a good way. Yeah.
Exactly. So what would you say then, what were your biggest learning experiences from those the problems that you had? Like, for example, in the US, did you just decide like I never want to do it the US because it's far away? Or like what were all your learning experiences from these failures?
Probably too many to cover in this video, but um,
Your major
I
ones.
learned, it's kind of counter to what I said about releasing control. I learned to take control of my business. And where I used to say, well, there's a property manager down there and he's taking care of it. I no longer think like that. People have to earn the right to be trusted in business with me. So I'll try to give the benefit of the doubt, but I'll give it on a short leash with new people until they prove themselves in terms of what they can do. And I think that that's just being a savvy business person. You need to understand that people are self-serving to a certain degree, and that's not a negative. Like, we all have that in us, and just being real about it and understanding what other people need to get out of a relationship, and not exposing myself to unnecessary risk. And in Ohio, I was 6 hours away, and I was giving this guy like $10,000 at a time, and he had my properties, and I didn't have the ability to come see them, and he knew that. And I think because of that, he took advantage of the situation and ultimately ended up stealing my money and allowing my property to be destroyed. And so I kind of decided, okay, I'm going to take control. And in order to take control, I'm going to invest close to home. I'm going to stay in London. I'm going to make it work here so I can keep an eye on it. Of course, my wife is from Burlington. We ultimately moved to Burlington. And now I'm an hour and a half from my property. So that it makes it a little tougher. But now I've got a pretty good team. So I'm hesitant to go to new markets, which is a little bit of a negative because London has exploded in pricing. Like, their prices here have just gone crazy. So now it's a little bit bittersweet because I would have to learn a new market, build a new team to a certain degree, to move operations elsewhere. Um, but that is another step. And again, so I feel it's going to be easier to do that with a little more help on the admin side, so that if I need to go to a new location and invest that time, or I can even have my admin help me build up my contacts, find contractors, do this and that. To this date, I have never used a general contractor. The Ohio one, I guess you could say I hired my property manager to be my general contractor, and it didn't turn out well. But I just kept having bad experiences every time I trusted somebody else to get me results. So I decided I'm going to get me results. And that was the most pivotal thing, like the absolute most pivotal thing. So I'm not saying don't hire people, don't try and delegate, but I much prefer I'm going to bring that person in-house. They're going to run under my operation. So it would be my company. They'll be my operation. They will work under my company, and they'll work for me full time. That model has served me incredibly well. But when I've subcontracted to somebody else in the general contractor role, I have not had luck. Now, that's not to say other people haven't. Like, I know people in my network hire GCs, general contractors, all the time and have great luck, but they're leveraging the network. These general contractors have something to lose because they have a reputation among our network. And if they don't do a good job, or if they take somebody's money, we'll all find out about it. So that's very different. I didn't have this network back then. So, and especially not in the areas that I was in. So, it's just a combination of networking with people and know the network, and then you have some leverage on people if they don't do a good job because they have a reputation to uphold. And then beyond that is be in control of your business. You got to take control of your business.
100%, yeah. And probably especially, well, yeah, you always to a certain level have control over your business, even though, like you said, right now you're trying to relinquish some of that control, but the
Yeah.
important thing is you're keeping control. But so what would you say then to the viewers, to people that are inexperienced, from the mistakes that you went through, what would you have done differently if you could have gone back at that time?
I would have paid attention to my friend Carlo, who was making crazy deals happen. I would have.
If you give me 1 second, I'm so
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
know I'm busy, but tell him that I can't. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No
I was
problem.
not expecting someone to come.
No problem.
But so sorry. So what were you
Yeah.
saying?
I would have paid attention to my friend Carlo a lot sooner, I would have bought more properties a lot sooner. I would have bought properties right as soon as I finished my or started my first teaching contact tract in 2008. Like I would have, if I had only realized how important it was to get around people who were doing and how that is I used to think like it just would happen. You know, some people would get lucky and they would have success. And now I realize it's all basically who's in their sphere, right? If it came from a family that knew how to do these things, then they learned it from their family and they did it. But if they didn't come from that, they had to surround themselves with people who did know. And I just would have started the process a lot sooner. And by doing that, I could have avoided some of the mistakes. But you learn from mistakes or mentors or a combination of both. I've learned from a lot of mistakes, and then of course combine that with some good mentorship and coaching, and it's helped me. Like now mentorship, I can apply all the things I already know, and then I can learn that much more by getting involved with others and just constantly listening to people who have done more than I have.
Yeah, totally. It's always exactly that, right? You always want to have mentors or people that are way ahead of you because then at least you know in which
Hmm.
direction you're going.
Absolutely.
So do you have a mentor right now?
Well, yeah, my mother-in-law is a great one. So she's been helpful to me from the beginning. She thinks really big. She's a very established developer, real estate investor. She's got thousands and thousands and thousands of units, I would have to think, in development, existing, and to be constructed. Um, so so she's a real inspiration. She's constantly buying and doing deals. Big vision, really big vision. She doesn't accept I can't or that won't work. She never listens to people who say that she can or say, "Are you nuts?" She overcomes it. So what I try and do is I try and take from her what fits with my personality and what I can learn from that, and I combine it with what else I've learned that I find fits with my personality and how I am and who I am, and that allows me to progress. And so I just combine it. I try and be very aware of what's comfortable for me because some of the things she does I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. But at the same time, I can certainly take certain elements of that and apply it to me and my business.
100%. Yeah. And so let's say your personality, like are you an outgoing person? Would you say that you like love to be in the spotlight, let's say, and being around people? Like are you an introvert or extrovert?
I honestly don't know. I'm pretty good on stage speaking in front of people. But I used to teach at Western, and I went going through business school. I had to give presentations. Played in a band for much of the last 15 years. So I'm used to being in the spotlight, but I don't know. Sometimes sometimes I just kind of just spend time alone. So I think I'm a mix of both, and I don't really know if you could call me one more than the other. Maybe a little more introverted, oddly enough, even though I like to do those things and public speak. But yeah, I'm not sure how that's affected me in its entirety. I just more look at, hey, am I going to feel? Can I see myself doing that? Am I going to feel comfortable doing that? And if I don't, then I try and just steer away from it. Like now more than ever, like if I'm when I'm making decisions, I gauge by doing this, will I be adding stress that I don't enjoy to my life? Right? There's good stress and then there's bad stress. In the business of contracting, which clients not to take, which ones to take, which projects to take, which ones not, flipping, which ones are worth which one's worth the squeeze and which one isn't. You really got to be able to evaluate that and how different things are going to fit with my life.
Yeah. So then I guess that's why for you building the community and having your podcast and stuff
Mhm.
was that something that like what made you want to get into that? Was that something that you just like you just really enjoy it and then was something to add in or
Well, I'm a pretty creative person. I like, you know, I'm coming from the music background. I like, creating stuff, using my audio equipment. So creating the videos and making it a really good podcast was fun for me, and it is. And then I wanted to be able to build the network, talk to people who I might not talk to otherwise, knowing how important Carlo was to my business early on, my friend who helped me with the student rentals. I knew that getting the right people in my sphere was going to help big time. And I knew if I could just be the center of the sphere, then, people would come to me, guests would want to come on the show. So it gave me like a license to get mentoring from every one of my guests, because they all know something that I don't know. Something they've done something I haven't done. And I love that it's connected me to so many people who are very smart and can do a lot of things, and I can learn from them, and we'll learn from each other. It'll be mutually beneficial. And yeah, that was the big thing. I knew I needed to get my name out there, create a brand, because you want to get private investors, you want to sell property, you want to buy property. It's better if people know who you are. When they see your name, they're like, oh, that guy, I want to talk to him if I call. So that was the big thing, right? If I call somebody, are they going to take my call? And I think it's big to have a well-established brand.
And so let's say we start going back to the entrepreneur and start and buying your real estate. Um, did you ever feel that confidence was an issue? Like, did you struggle with confidence to start the business, or what was the struggle, let's say, that kind of you had at the beginning of starting your entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
real estate businesses?
Well, I think everyone questions themselves, right? Like, do I have something here? And I just felt uncertain. I would say uncertain of what I was supposed to be doing, what type of property or what type of business, what was going to work for me, what was going to feel right. So I think we all go through that to a certain degree. And what I realized is that if I was feeling that way, I needed to do more research. I needed to talk to more people, because you could have one conversation with somebody and all of a sudden they say something that just clicks. And that one thing that you knew so much about, but not quite enough to act on, all of a sudden now you have that critical piece of information you need to act on. So you synthesize everything you knew from before with that one piece of information you got from that one person, and that was enough. And now you can do it. And sometimes with my podcast guests, I just hear this one thing and it makes something click, and I'm like, now I know what I would do different next time that opportunity arises. I'll be ready. And I guess that's basically how I'm able to progress and move forward, and know that I will be able to when the opportunity comes around.
So do you have a story of something that was like a click for you that you'd like to share?
Mm, yeah. So I had Kyle Ford and Chelsea on the podcast back in like the 50s, episode 56, and they were talking about how to do a large scale burp, like where you buy like a 10-plex, and they were able to get all their tenants to leave all at once. And that was like a huge thing for me. I was like really worried. I'm like, how could I ever buy a big building like that, because you have to pay so much? I'd be cash negative, and I wouldn't be able to get those tenants out. And it worried me, and it was enough to make me not do it. It was enough to make me like worry about the cash flow element and how I would be losing money and just not want to do it. And he explained to me a strategy that he uses on the podcast and how he's been able to get all 10 to leave at once. I'm like, wow, if I had known that like 3 months ago, I would have done a deal that came across my desk. And that was sort of just shortly before this lockdown situation happened. But I was in a point like right before the lockdown where I was like finally ready to take action. Now, of course, the lockdown kind of changed my plans and the amount of stress I wanted to take on. But it was like this eureka moment where I knew, okay, yeah, I'm going to be able to take action as soon as the time is right.
That's awesome. So we need to listen to that podcast
Yeah, that's a good
then.
one. Yeah, I would say listen to all the episodes if you can. Like there's a lot of really really good guests that have been on that share a lot of gold nuggets, a lot of eureka moments for a lot of people. I think have been had through the guests that have come on that podcast.
That's awesome. So what would you say is your Eureka moment?
How do you mean?
Like in real estate, let's say in something, uh, maybe usually, you know, something that helped you grow bigger than you expected. Was there any like Eureka moment, like you're like, wow, like
It
this
was it
really
was
made me grow faster than I was thinking or something?
I knew my life wouldn't be the same after I sold that first property. And, of course I had aspirations of potentially being able to keep it, but because of my financial situation at the time, I wouldn't have been able to pull all the money back out. Um, so, But because I was able to sell it and I did it all myself, I'm like, wow, I can do this, and my life won't ever be the same because that's profitable and I enjoy doing it. And I had just gone through years and years of not liking what I did, and by taking action and trying it, I was able to find that opportunity, and then of course jump on it.
That's awesome. So now let's talk about OPM because you said that you most of or some of your investments were through OPM.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say was the scariest, or was it scary or struggle for you trying to go after your first OPM?
Uh, you know what? I wouldn't say that was scary. I guess it was more scary just thinking, hey, might not be able to do this if I can't convince somebody. But I would never approach somebody with an opportunity if I didn't feel 100% confident in the quality of that opportunity. So I'm very particular. I wouldn't just go out there and do that. And I think that the reason I've been able to be successful, if I've ever asked, a friend or family member or whoever, uh, to basically give me money and I pay them a return, uh, was because I was so confident they could see that I was confident in what I was doing and knew what I was doing. Because when you know what you're talking about, other people can tell. And so I think the biggest thing for me in being successful in doing that and getting other people's money was knowing my stuff inside and out, having an answer for any objection, because it's a sales call, right? When you're selling somebody on the idea of investing in you. And I think that that's the way the people who have lent to me see it. They see it as investing in me. Like they understand that I take it as a very serious thing, and they know my character, they know who I am and how I conduct myself, and I think that that's the selling point. And I like to let what I've done, my approach, and who I am, sell itself. I don't like to. I'm not a salesy person. Same thing with my coaching. Like when I do coaching for people, like I don't sell them. I'm like, if you know me, you follow me in what I do, and you think that I'll be helpful for you, if you think that I'm a good fit for you, then let's work together. But if not, let's not. Uh, because I'm very, very, very adamant that it needs to be a good relationship fit, and whether it's other people's money, any sort of person you're dealing with whatsoever, you should have a good feeling about that relationship, and you should feel like that's going to be fruitful. That's going to be something that you're going to enjoy being a part of. Because if you're working with people that you don't gel with, it just doesn't add to the quality of your life, right? You want to pick people that are going to bring you up, be a good, positive element in your life.
100%. Yeah, the people that you're around with are
Yeah.
so important, even if they're just for the money.
Especially
Like,
that though, especially that, because can you imagine if you had a really, really nervous lender and it called you every day? That's not going to work.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to have somebody who trusts in what you're doing. They get their deposit every month and they're happy. I really like the way that works. Like if you do an equity partner, you get calls, what's going on, what's happening. If you do debt, a debt partner, well, not really a partner, but a debt lender, they get their payment every month and they're happy, right? Hey, this is working great. I get paid every month. It works very, very effectively. So I've tried, I've tried both, and I definitely think that's the easiest method. But you got to be
Hmm.
confident. You're asking somebody to just basically write you a check, and you got to be
Hmm.
confident. And of course, you should know your stuff. Don't act if you don't know your stuff. And if you don't know your stuff, go find somebody who does, and then you bridge that gap.
So then you would say then your confidence probably came from previous experience with other projects first, and then
Yeah,
analyzing properties afterwards to get money was a lot easier for you because you already had come with
yeah,
experience of just your own projects, right?
yeah. It's a lot easier to convince somebody when you've already done it, right? You say,
Mhm.
well, I'm just doing another one of these projects. I just did three. You're gonna do one more,
Mhm.
and so yeah, basically being able to just refer back, hey, this is the type of project I do. Here's what I was able to do on the last three. I'm doing it again. Um, you're one of my first calls. I just thought I'd offer you the opportunity first, and please let me know if you're interested, and if not, that's totally cool too. And you start the conversation that way, and then they have some questions. You go through that, and yeah, you're not gonna get it every time, but I think that, again, it just comes back. If you're enthusiastic, actually excited about what you do, that's contagious. People will get excited as well.
Totally. And I think like a lot of people for some reason get scared about OPM because I don't think
Hmm.
they realize like if you have a really good deal and exactly and you have to obviously know how to run the numbers,
Yeah.
like the deal almost talks for itself too.
Right.
Because it's when you have all the information and then it's really same thing, like your personality obviously is
Yeah.
important because you're like, I have this deal, they may not they'd be whatever. But if it's, if you're really excited about it, they'll
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. So that makes
Yeah,
sense. They'll
absolutely.
definitely hit. So then what, so then for OPM, so then OPM wasn't really very hard for you then. So I guess it was more like, I think because you had your struggle in the
Yeah.
beginning, that was probably your biggest learning curve, I guess, was like those projects that you
Yeah.
just,
Well, actually, my business partner, a friend of mine named Mike, he kind of approached me. He said, "Hey, I want to do some of these projects with you." I'm like, "Okay." He was a friend of a friend, so we eventually formed a partnership, started a company together to flip properties, and he was so good at raising other people's money, and I just watched how easy it was to him, and I learned a lot from that. Again, just leveraging my network, leveraging the people around me who understood things better than me, and I could say, "Hey, Mike, we need 400 grand for this project." He's like, "Oh yeah, 400 grand. When do we need it?" And oh, we'll close in a month or something like that. He's like, "Okay, don't worry about it. I got it." Like that kind of confidence. And I'm like, "Why are you so confident?" And so I learned what he learned. You know what I mean? You learn what that other person knows. And again, just I keep trying to do that, and it's all about finding that person that can help you level up. Right? You achieve one level. Who's that person that you're going to need to hear from or talk to that's going to take it to the next level?
100%. So like knowing yourself is very important because knowing basically what your weaknesses are and trying to find
Mm-hmm.
your weaknesses as being someone else's strengths to learn
Yeah.
from all the best.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Hmm.
So then let's go to family life. So how have you felt work life with family life, even maybe future thinking? Because I don't think you have children, do you? Or you do have
No, I
children?
don't.
No.
I got married last summer. So, how
Congratulations.
do you mean? Yeah, thank you.
So then for this like family life and work life, how did you find it to be a struggle to balance the two? Like what do you feel like were the hard parts of,
Hmm.
juggling your family life and, being an entrepreneur? Because like you said, sometimes you're working like long, long hours.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, early on, I kind of just, my now wife, then girlfriend, I just told her, look, I'm gonna have to be in London most of the week. I need to make a change. Like what I was doing wasn't working for me, so I'm gonna do this. And she got behind me, and she was good with it. She comes from a real estate family, so she understood the value and was supportive. So that it was hard at first, but then as I got more established, I was able to do a lot more remotely and work from Burlington, which is what I do now. So no, I don't find that that's difficult. We both work in Burlington, so we can be around each other relatively easily. And maintaining my current level is pretty easy. It doesn't require that much effort. It's growing more that requires more effort. So yeah, like there is there's the tendency to want to just be content and say, hey, I'm good. I don't really need to grow it more. But at the same time, what are we if we're not growing, right? Eventually, you get bored. You need a new challenge. You want to go do something bigger. So, we're definitely we're looking to grow now, kind of as a family. We want to buy a house together. Something of our own. So we're kind of working on that right now, and then I'll be doing more real estate projects. So she does real estate investing too. So eventually we'll do one together. Start to finish kind of project. We've never done that yet.
Awesome. So then for sure then, which is really important, is having the support from your
Hmm.
significant other. It's so important to help, I think, as an entrepreneur and as an investor.
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah. That's everything. Yeah, it'd be really hard if she wasn't on board. Right? I hear these people say like, my girlfriend wasn't on board, or you know, that I haven't had to deal with regards to real estate. Like it was very much something she was supportive of from the beginning. So that was really nice, right? Because otherwise it can be an uphill battle, right? If your significant other isn't on board with what you do, then you'll you'll struggle until you can figure a way of convincing them.
100%. Yeah. So then for, I guess, the final question, so what are your goals for the future? Have you started thinking about what your future goals are?
You know what? I had all these aspirations of like a set number. I certainly am I'm working towards hitting a $20,000 eventual cash flow goal in my real estate portfolio. Based on the current market, I feel that number would allow us to just basically hire a property manager and travel the world. Whenever we're able to easily travel again. So that's kind of long term. Like I know my wife, she wants to spend like 6 months in Austria. We like to go there a lot. We do like to travel and adventure a fair bit. Mostly, I just like to be able to choose every single day as I go. Like I like to tinker. So that is why we're looking for a place where we can basically have a shop or have extra space where I can, set up my tools and actually have like a little shop would be wonderful. To be able to tinker if and when I want to, have space. I play music. So just kind of being able to make up every single day as I want, to me is the single most valuable thing that a person could ask for in their life, to just be able to create every single day as you want it to be.
100%. Having that freedom to make the decisions of what you want your days to be is
Yeah.
definitely it's something we all strive for, right?
Yeah. It's everything, right? Because I could say, oh, I want this, or I want to go on a hot air balloon ride, but I mean, I might not want to do that tomorrow. so,
Exactly.
so
And
many
that's,
people
I
are,
think, also, sorry,
yeah.
continue.
I found it very difficult, when people ask, what's your goal? Like, I don't really know. uh, but I know that I enjoy my freedom, and I want to maintain that. I want to grow that. I want to be able to continue to remove the things in my life that aren't things I love doing, and then just have things that I love doing. So being creative, tinkering, finding deals, creating deals, those are fun things for me, and basically just fill my life with more of the things that I love.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. It was really fun to get to know you and get to know your journey of personal development. I'm pretty sure everyone will definitely enjoy hearing your story and learning from it because we're all learning from everyone's experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, yeah, thanks for the invite, and I hope your viewers find it helpful.
Thank you, Olivia. Bye. It was nice
Okay, bye,
chatting with
Diana.
you. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Oh, I don't know how to end. There we go.